Viewers, today is episode number 11. I am with the one and only
Aaron Delmar, Cook County Republican chairman.
Aaron, man. How are you?
I'm great, man. Couldn't be better. We're right in the middle of petition season. It just kicked off a couple of weeks ago. We're getting all of our candidates together, not only locally, but on a statewide ballot. We have the Illinois State Fair coming down here on Thursday, Republican Day. So I'll be around a lot of my fellow conservatives. Couldn't be more excited for and optimistic about the upcoming election.
There we go. I mean, hey, you're from Chicago, one of the most uh, passionate fan bases for baseball, football, everything in between. So, Aaron, just want to dive in to obviously, politics, and we'll have a little bit of fun with like the Cubs and the White Sox. I'm a White Sox fan because my grandfather, Refugio Rodriguez, uh, immigrated from Mexico to Chicago. He was a mechanist for a railroad company down over there, and loved Chicago so much. He after every day at work, he would come home, have a cigar, or have a cigarette. I'm sorry, and watch the White Sox play.
Well, I'm a North Sider, right? I grew up in the Portage Park area before I moved to Palatine, so I'm a big Cubs fan. But I gotta say, I do have some love for our White Sox. They are my favorite minor league team.
Of course, and especially too, you guys have the Pope now. I mean, you
Right, we
guys got
got the
everything.
Pope. That's right.
You guys got everything.
Well,
News about Chicago, like city government wise, is there anything that my viewers can learn about Chicago uh, in like city politics?
yeah, I mean, you have probably the worst mayor in the city of Chicago's history. He's got an approval rating that floats around single digits. He's talked about raising a 300 million a year tax increase on property. That didn't go through. It went down on the city council vote, 0 to 50, which kind of tells you where the aldermen were at the time. He's got the most amount of employees in Chicago history. He's got the largest budget in Chicago history, and he's got the largest deficit in Chicago history. So the guy's doing a bang up job. He is widely unpopular, both through the trade unions and from all of the different government workers. I mean, the only group that really likes him is his home base of Chicago Teachers Union, where he was one of the leaders and is a member of. So I think there's a lot going on in Chicago. I mean, crime rate is still very high. I mean, even today, Donald Trump said that he was going to take over the Chicago Police Department, bring in the National Guard to try to quell a lot of the violence. I know that probably didn't go over very well with a lot of Chicagoans. Nobody wants a military state, but the mayor's asleep at the desk and he's not doing the things necessary to keep Chicagoans safe. You're looking at businesses that are getting ready to flee Chicago. He's talking about putting on a $4 per person headcount tax that was eliminated by Rahm Emanuel during his term. And that's all with 40% vacancy rates in the Chicago Loop and many office buildings. So I think Chicago's in a lot of trouble. I think they need to get their fiscal house in order. They need to concentrate on public safety and start working on major issues that people care about at the kitchen table instead of trying to push far left woke ideas onto people, which people are just concerned about filling up their gas tank, putting food on the table, and trying to have a few bucks afterwards so they can do something with their family.
Of course. And I'm glad you brought up the whole federalization of police departments. Just right now, Trump just announced it for DC, and he thought about doing it for New York City and so on. Chicago, from what I remember, is you guys have a lot of crime in that city, probably one of the highest ever. And especially y'all's mayor, Brandon Johnson. I am super sorry, but he is the
Right.
incompetent fool. Like he is just, I don't know what his deal is. Chicago was once the mecca of like everything, like all cultures, history, riches came from Chicago. And
Right.
now look at it. It's just really bad right now.
Well, Chicago is the third most populous city in the United States. It has one of the most densest population of people, with almost 3 million residents that live within Chicago city limits. Cook County is the second largest county in the United States behind LA County. And we just have a very dysfunctional government. and without having staffing reductions and redoing the way that we see education. I mean, I live in Palatine. My kids get to go to a great school. We do have pretty high property taxes here, but we get a really big value for those property taxes. And what we
Mm.
spend on a per student basis is significantly less than what they spend in Chicago. But yet, our test scores, our graduation rates, those matriculating onto the military, to trade schools, and to college are significantly higher than in the city of Chicago. So the job can get done in Illinois, but it needs to change the
Mhm.
leadership, and it needs to have more adherence to best public policy. And we need to start concentrating on, though, again, like I said, the issues that matter to people. You know, Brendan Johnson talks over and over how he cares most about those that are, you know, unforeseen, those that don't have the resources and able to live a lifestyle like everybody else does. And his actions, though, are punishment to that same group, because the underserved community that he keeps talking about. Look, where I live, I'm very fortunate. I have a good job. You know, family's got good jobs. I fill up the tank if the tank's at $1.50 a gallon, or if the tank's $5.50 a gallon. I'm fortunate enough to be able to fill up my tank. There's other people that live in the southwest side of Chicago, in different parts of Chicago, that fill up to $20 because that's what they have to get to the next fill up. When you add one of the biggest gas taxes, like JB Pritzker did in Illinois, that is a recessive a tax that's punitive to those underserved communities. When you do have a property tax, it is a recessive tax that hurts everybody in the city of Chicago. When they just added, starting January 1st of 2025, a renter's tax, you rent any item, you rent a carpet cleaner at Home Depot or at the grocery store, you rent anything, it's another 10.25% tax. So those that are trying to, not hiring steam cleaners, the company to come in, that are doing it themselves, are paying more. They started talking about adding a service tax. So if you go to Bo
Mm.
Ricks and you get your hair cut for $15, now it's going to be $18.50. They're adding right now. They're getting ready to sign into law the delivery tax. If you want to get an Uber Eats, it's a minimum of $1.50 tax on top of whatever you're eating. And if you look at the demographics of those that are utilizing those delivery services, your Uber Eats, your Postmates, those different groups, it's those same demographic that JB Pritzker and Brandon Johnson say that they're protecting, and they're not.
See, seeing y'all's governor, JB Pritzker, um, I know he was recently on the news talking about the whole Texas Democrats fleeing to avoid the gerrymandering bill.
Sure.
And frankly put it, he just kept pushing it off, saying, no, 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 that's what they're doing, like, pointing the fingers
He's
at
the
us. And
biggest hypocrite that has ever been. He's the worst governor in the United States.
of
We have the
course.
most gerrymandered district. And that's not just me saying that from a partisan position. If you look
Mhm.
at the Fair Maps program, it's a nonpartisan think tank that evaluates each of the maps after every census, every 10 years. It gave Illinois a ranking of F, the worst that ranking that it can possibly have. It ranked us 50 out of 50 as the worst gerrymandered maps in the United States. That is after JB Pritzker won his election in 2018. He ran on a campaign of saying that he's going to make it fair maps. That was one of his top three talking points. He's going to create a nonpartisan commission to draw the fairest maps in Illinois by population and by ethnic background and financial background. And the second he got in office, he turned his back on it and drew the most gerrymandered maps that Illinois has ever seen. And he's talking about gerrymandering even more. And a lot of us chuckle. First of all, I don't think there's an appetite for that in the Illinois House, which is really where it goes. He can't actually do it himself. He's got to go to the Illinois House of Representatives and Illinois Senate in order to do that. But even more, you can't gerrymander us anymore. We got 17 congressional districts in Illinois, and 3 of them are Republican, 14 of them are Democrat. But here's the kicker: Illinois is 45% Republican and 55% Democrat. That is completely unfair when you look at the way that the maps are drawn and that JB Pritzker is talking about doing it. And so if they wanted to go back and try to gerrymander these maps again, I think it would be really interesting to see, because I think that if they start getting real cute with it, they might put themselves in peril. Because this cycle, right, we have the pendulum swinging back because the Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the White House. But in 2 years or 3 years, when there's a new election, if that election swings and the Democrats take control of all three and they remap these areas, we might have 4 or 5 of these maps in play, because there's a lot of places in Illinois that are, they seem like they're really Democratic strongholds, but they're not. They just have a bunch of moderates and soft Republicans that don't like Donald Trump, and they just have voted that way in the last 2 cycles. That could easily swing back. So I'm like, hey, JB Pritzker, if you want to go ahead and remap us, go ahead and do it. And then in 3 or 4 years, we're going to go and we're going to take 7 of your congressional districts back, and we'll see what's up then.
Karma. It's just karma.
Right.
Like, you know,
Come get it.
come get
Right.
it. I
We're
mean,
how are you going to gerrymander, you know what I mean, California any more than it already is? Right. I mean, a lot of these states, they're it's just it's laughable to see what they're doing. And,
mm,
and what it all of a sudden Gavin Newsom is going to go change the California Constitution. And when are they going to do it by? The cycle is next November. Here in Illinois, petition season's already started. So even if they went and changed the maps now, then what are you going to do? You're going to throw everybody's petitions away, and you're going to, create new districts. And now you're going to have new candidates that are having to run. Like they can't even do it this cycle. But nobody hears that, right? Because only on these podcasts and on news reporting sites that really want to do it, it is impossible for them to do it in this cycle. Because, like I said, people are already announced for what races they're running in. And do you think the congressional delegation of Illinois that's on the Democrat side, those 14 congressmen, want their maps redone now? They don't even know where to campaign. So it's just a non-starter. It's just ludicrous to even say that. And I think people, your viewers and everyone at home needs to know that it's total BS.
of course. See, it's just very confusing a lot, and especially with JB Back Ribs. I will give him that nickname. You know, we just had to pile on him. It's fine. But no, seeing him just parading around saying, "Oh, you know, woe is me," you know, what we're threat to the democracy, and I'm like, do you not see yourself being the actual threat? I mean,
Well, because he's not running for he's announced to run for governor again, but really that's not what he's doing. He's trying to
mm,
keep himself relevant so he can be in a position to run in the 2028 presidential primary. And he's
oh
using
gosh,
Illinois as a petri dish to try out all of his far left progressive ideas so he can get to the left side of the base for that primary. When we all know, by example, the 2024 Donald Trump winning the election, that the United States as a whole, right? I mean, there's pockets of Democrats, of course, but as a whole leans to the right. And so all these ideas are going to blow up in his face again when he tries to run in a general election if he makes it through the primary. And he's not even breaking the top five of potential candidates, anyways.
of course. No, I think of him as like a Chris Christie candidate. You know, just complaining a lot and sorry, just his weight in general. But no, he reminds me of Chris Christie, and I'm like, no, there's no chance in hell that he's ever going
He
to
would be
become
the
president.
largest president we had since Howard Taft
See, yes,
or William
and
Taft or whatever it is. I apologize if I messed that up. But yeah, the Taft. I mean, I mean, like, let's just be honest. And you know what? The weight being aside, it's the policies. It's
of
the fact
course,
that he's the richest elected official in the United States, and he wants to pull a Michael Bloomberg, and his money can do it, and he's just going to go in
Mhm.
there. The guy's never really worked a job in his life. He inherited all, born on third base and thinks he hit a triple, and that's what he's doing. I mean, nobody pumps $450 million into the state of Illinois for an election cycle unless he's running for something in higher. And
Yeah,
that's just really what it is. And he can try to sugarcoat it. He can try to hide it any which way. I mean, he was asked yesterday during a press conference if he would commit to not running for president and serving the 4 years as governor of Illinois, and he wouldn't do it. He hasn't ruled it out. So the people of Illinois really need to see what he is in the true light, and that is just somebody that is looking to use his money and ambition without the skills or the understanding of how policy works and try to elevate themselves.
of course. See, especially, I mean, just all the policies that he just endorses, him and Brandon Johnson both, with illegal immigrants, giving them housing, giving them, what is it, food, everything in between. I'm sorry. I
The state of
wish
Illinois has already
Chicago.
spent over $1.2 billion of taxpayer dollars
Hmm,
in order to take care and house immigrants. And listen, my dad was an immigrant from the Philippines. He came here in 1974. I see them out on the street in Chicago. I mean, they're very hard to miss. I mean, there's over 40,000 illegal immigrants that have come into the Chicagoland area over the last year, and my heart breaks for them. It
of
really
course.
does, right? I mean, we're a very rich country. We, even though we have some struggles here in Illinois, we're very well off compared to anywhere else in the rest of the world. And we do have a level of responsibility to try to take care of those, that are having these challenges. However, this all could have been avoided if Joe Biden would have protected the border in the beginning. He let more illegal immigrants into the United States than ever before. I mean, even his predecessor, Barack Obama deported more illegal immigrants than Donald Trump has in his first year. And a lot of people forget about that. They're like, oh, Obama's great. I'm like, we're trying to keep up with Obama's deportations. We're not even there yet, right? Like we're working
Yeah.
towards that number. And I think it's challenging, but here's the way that I try to talk to people when they're in the city of Chicago. I go, look, the Chicago Public Schools has had mass de-enrollment. More people keep leaving the public school network year after year, and they saw a bump in this last year and a half. They're like, oh, enrollment went up, and it's because of the illegal immigration that is happening, right? For the undocumented people that are sending their kids to Chicago public schools, because there is no residency requirement as far as being legal in the United States. They don't check for it. Okay.
Mm,
And what I always said, I'm like, if you're somebody that's on the southwest side of Chicago and you've been living there for 50 years, and you've been told that there's no resources for great education, for health services, for mental health services, for playgrounds, for additional cleanup of your area, for infrastructure remodeling, any of that. And then all of a sudden, 40,000 people come into your area, and all of a sudden these resources are found. Like, how does that make you feel? When you
yeah.
have the Chicago Public Schools where your kids are going to that school and your classroom is 30 students to one teacher, and now because of illegal immigration, it's 42 kids to one teacher, and your child's challenging education is even almost impossible now, right? Because you're dealing with language barriers, you're dealing with more kids just in general. How does that make you feel? When you have Cook County Hospital, Stroger Hospital, where people that don't have health insurance go, and you break your arm, right? And you're used
Mm,
to waiting 7 or 8 hours to see a doctor, get an x-ray and get it casted. And now you're waiting 18 hours because it's backloaded. How does that make you feel? When you have a $800 million deficit in your Chicago government annually, and now they just spent $1.2 billion on illegal immigration, and now they have to be 300 million, 400 million property tax increase that affects your home, and now you're paying $600-700 more a year when it's already hard with inflation. How does that make you feel? And I think people really need to start understanding it from the point of view of how it affects everyday people and how it affects their lifestyle to get a real understanding of the impact that has made.
this is why we're doing the podcast, so people can understand, people can know, and get more information. Because sure as hell, mainstream media is not going to post anything like this at all. They're just going to give you
Well,
the
no, because
facts.
it doesn't meet the DEI requirements. It doesn't mean the woke environment, and it's a controversy to it. But again, you and I have not said anything during this podcast so far that's not true, right?
Mhm,
We're just, I mean, the fact of the matter is 40,000 people came in during a very short amount of time. Chicago was not ready to accept its own services to its own residents that have been here for decades. And you're seeing like Illinois is one of the biggest migrations out of our state, and we're going to the point where we're going to lose a congressional district in the next census. I mean, we already know that. We just
mhm.
lost one. We're going to lose another one. We're going to go from 17 down to 16 because people are fleeing Illinois. I mean, people are concerned about the border, right? You know what I mean? On the Texas-Mexico border, I'm concerned about the border to Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Iowa because people are leaving our state and going to one state over, not only either to live or to purchase their items because it's less expensive because the taxes are cheaper. Um, and I mean, they buy their gasoline on the border because it's cheaper everywhere else they go. And that hurts Illinois families because when these people leave, their tax burden doesn't leave with them. So I'll give you an
Mhm.
example. One of the richest people in the world, Ken Griffin, used to live in Chicago. I don't know if you know who Ken Griffin is. He's the founder and owner of Citadel. He got upset. He moved out of Chicago because of the crime rate, and he moved to Florida, where there's no regular income tax there. When he left a $23 million hole in the tax in Illinois taxes. He was that rich. His Illinois taxes were 23 million a year. Just by him leaving, that money left with them. So that 23 million is now a bigger hole in the city of Chicago, in the state of Illinois, because we don't have those funds. So what happens? That 23 million gets placed on the shoulders of every other resident. So now I have to pay a little bit more. Now the people down the street everybody's got to pay a little bit more to make up for that giant hole that he left. And when you drive businesses out of the community, you drive the jobs out with them, you drive the tax base out with them, you drive, like, look at our downtown area. When all those businesses left, stumbled, during COVID and never came back because they're doing remote or they just went to another state, all of those offices are now unoccupied. There's a 40%
Mm.
occupancy rate in the downtown condensed area of office space. You know who's also suffering? All of the restaurants that served all these people lunch, all of the breakfast places that had them there, all the downtown after dinner places, and the hotels because nobody's coming in for business work that right to meet at meetings and such from out of state. All of them suffer, and our whole economy suffers. And then when they evaluate those property taxes on those office buildings, when they were valued at tens of millions of dollars before, when they were full of people and hustling and bustling, now they're valued at half that amount. You have to tax them at half that amount. So where does that burden go? It goes on regular homeowners. So they have to levy up more on the personal homes and drop it on the commercial side. So again, your property tax and the amount that you're paying, every dollar goes there because the business community deserted us because of these failed policies.
JB Beck and Brandon Johnson, y'all need to do better.
Yeah.
If not, elections have consequences. Elections have
They do, and I
consequences.
think if you can tell that Brandon Johnson's on his way. Out. If you look at some of the internal baseball, you see Susana Mendoza, our comptroller. She has decided not to run again. Everyone knows the inside secret that she's going to run for mayor. You have Alexi Janulius, the Secretary of State, who's looking at that. You have Mike Quigley, our congressman from the 5th District, that is looking at running for mayor of Chicago. And why are they thinking that? Because they know that it's weak, and they know that Brandon Johnson is susceptible to a loss. And
Mm.
they can smell blood in the water. Really, that's it. If you were looking back in the day when Richard Daley was the mayor of Chicago, there was nobody talking about running against him. And like him or don't like him, he kept the trains running on time, and he kept the government working and operating. And that you can't say that for our last two mayors of Chicago. And it's really sad because Chicago is one of the greatest cities in the greatest country in the world, and we're just destroying it.
Of course. Speaking of which, y'all had a very interesting mayor. If well, mayor slash village board of trustees, Tiffany Haynyard.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, to my viewers, this is what is online right now. Excessive credit card spending over
Oh yeah.
$770,000.
Yeah, so Tiffany Hanward was the mayor of Dalton. She was also the Thornton Township um, supervisor, right? Both of those jobs were, $200,000 a year jobs, right? Strong mayor, which in general, she was siphoning $400,000 a year plus benefits, plus pension from the same taxpayers because Dalton is within Thornton Township. So two different levels of government, right? You have the
Hmm.
township government, which is, Thornton Township, and then the city of Dalton, which is in it. So the same people, right? And if you look at that area, it's an underserved area. It's not a hop and pop. It's not Hinsdale. It's not Naperville. It's not Highland Park or Lake Forest. It is an area that has some struggles. And she said it. Not only did she go and take the ridiculous amount in paychecks and benefits, but then she went on a buying spree, and she would take her whole team out to go to steak dinners, and she went to Disneyland, and she did all of this to the point where they hired the former mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, to come in and audit it. And they did this full audit and they presented it. And she didn't even show up to the meeting because she knew how crooked it was going to be. And she got voted out as mayor, of course. She got taken out in a caucus, and she's under federal investigation. And the feds take their time. I mean, they're going to put a nice big case together of all this mismanagement. And she's probably going to be looking at the inside of a jail cell at some point, and probably in the near future. And she's just hiding out. And and I get it. If I was her, I would be hiding out. I would be moving somewhere else because she is going to go away. And she earned it. You know what I mean? It's just total mismanagement. It's greed at
Mm.
the highest level, and to do it on an area that needs every bit of resources that it has
Mm.
is really disheartening.
And Aaron, man, I'm going to play some clips of Tiffany Henyard's incompetence, her just everything about her. It was just insane. Here's a little
Sure.
clip.
As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
Actually, yes. The credit card records do shed some light on tax dollars spent at several restaurants near the Strip, including Cafe Hollywood and Hot and Juicy Crawfish.
All right, any other questions?
So you're not going to answer how taxpayer dollars are being spent? That seems odd.
I just answered it.
Y'all forget I am the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. If y'all ain't learned that yet, the mayor, not the trustees that don't do nothing, that only run their mouth. Y'all don't do no work, but everything we do for the people. But we under attack. We getting scrutinized in the media. For what? Loving on the people, showing them that they matter to us. We going through the fires for y'all.
Henyard calls her critics grandstanders who should get in line.
Y'all should be ashamed of yourself. Y'all black. Y'all are black. And y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a black woman that's in power. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
Dalton's difficulties got worse in recent weeks with water main breaks Henyard blames on trustee budget cuts. Then 4 people were shot and injured last week, leaving nerves frayed and Henyard's opponents pointing out her sizable security detail.
It's unfortunate that politics are being played, but what has happened is $1 million out of my budget has been cut because of politics.
Good job. What we're saying is you're assigning all of them to be with you when they should be out here protecting the residents so we can all feel safe.
Residents are taking notice. Some spoke for and others against the mayor.
Well, you know, we got the mayor here. I mean, meeting with the president of the United States. Everyone's seen the picture. I mean, that's a big deal. That is great promotion for this city.
Newly obtained records show last year Henyard was paid more than $347,000 from Dalton and Thornton Township, the 2 governments she runs. That's more than Chicago's mayor makes. Henyard's comp includes $282,000 from the township, which also gave her a $4,900 per month expense allowance and an $1,100 monthly vehicle allowance. That's despite the fact Dalton taxpayers spent 6 figures on 2 SUVs police used to chauffeur Henyard.
Trustee Gray Everett, Supervisor Henyard.
And did we mention Henyard hasn't attended a single meeting since she lost re-election?
Why haven't you been to board meetings since your defeat?
And work.
You don't want to answer? You're still getting paid. Why not go to the meetings?
No, and especially I've kept up with it. I think since December of last year, really, because I found her so laughable as a politician. I'm super glad that she's gone, and she fashioned herself as like the best mayor in the United States, and I was like, no, you're not. I mean, what do you?
Listen to this. You want to hear some more inside baseball? Here's some grassroots inside baseball for you. So Cook County is made up of 50 wards in the city of Chicago, right? 50 ward aldermen, 50 wards, and 30 townships. It makes 80 total entities. And Thornton Township is one of the 30 suburban Cook County townships. And next to it, adjacent to it, is Bremen Township. And every township has a Republican committeeman and a Democratic committeeman. Their job are to run the political efforts for both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party in each of their positions. Tiffany Henyard was represented by the Republican committeeman in Bremen Township. And when on election day, when he was supposed to be running his own election for township government in Bremen Township, which is called a caucus, he did not have a caucus in Bremen. And he decided that he was going to go over and represent Thornton Township Democratic Party during their caucus. So the dysfunction is not only on the Democrats, there's a ton of dysfunction on the Republican side as well. And that's really, one of the things that gets me aggravated and gets me heated is that not only do we have to go and change the way that we do politics for the city of Chicago through the Democratic Party, we need to have a house cleaning on the Republican side and start putting up our own candidates and start funding them and creating a robust fundraising mechanism so we can build infrastructure so we can compete at every level. Because we don't, we have our own people working for the other side.
And very interesting. I did not expect
when you go through and you Google and you look up Tiffany Henyard, take a look at Max Solomon, who is her attorney, is the Bremen Township Republican committeeman.
Interesting.
Yeah. And he's now just announced that he's running for governor of Illinois on the Republican ticket. He announced 3 days ago.
Oh gosh.
There you go.
Dude,
Inside baseball.
I'm praying for you all. Chicago and Illinois have a bright future, obviously, with President Trump. President Trump, you see this podcast right now. We need to clean up Illinois from top to bottom. Right. So please, President Trump, please. Um, Another topic that I would love to discuss with you, because I've seen that the Obama Library is
Right.
being built at the moment, and I'm seeing right now in Newsweek the Obama Library behind schedule, over budget, and mired in lawsuits. Can you
Sure.
give me,
Yeah.
and that was back in January 31st. So is there like any updates?
Oh yeah, there's a lot. So even though we have a heavily saturated Democratic Party in Chicago and Illinois, they are not a monolithic group. They all have their different thoughts and ideas, and same for a lot of other parties as well, right? Republicans were just the same way. And Friends of the Park, which is a group that is committed to Chicago's Lakeshore and Lakefront, sued the Obama Library and tried to prevent them from building the library on that lakeshore on that land. That
Mm.
lawsuit went for many years. They thought it was settled. You're right. They keep on coming back. I give them this. They are consistent as heck. And you know what? And gotta love those Democrats. They created an environment, separate and apart from your topic. They created an environment so it was so hard for Soldier Field to be rebuilt and to find a home on Chicago's Lakeshore that they're moving down the street from me in Arlington Heights. They knocked down the old Arlington racetrack, and the Bears announced finally that they are moving to Arlington Heights. So they will no longer be the Chicago Bears. They'll be the Arlington Heights Bears. I'm sure they'll keep the Chicago name, but the Chicago Bears will now be playing their whole season in a brand new stadium being built in Arlington Heights because Friends of the Park did not like the Chicago Bears and they do not like the Obama Library. They try to build it in this whole green, made out of sod. I don't know exactly all of the finer details, but the design took them a lot longer. They didn't meet all the different criteria, and the trades that were working on it no longer worked on it. So it's over budget. It's way behind schedule, and it is tied up in so much litigation. Even still, they would have been better moving right next to the Bears, moved right into Palatine, and put the Obama Library there. I don't necessarily know if I would have liked that there, but the second you get out of the city of Chicago, you find it a lot easier to conduct business. And so when I mentioned earlier in your podcast where they're talking about putting another tax, an effective, basically an income tax on all businesses, the suburbs, people like me live in the burbs, we're like, come and get it. Because what do you think they're going to do? They're going to move right out of the city of Chicago and they're going to come into the suburbs because they're going to avoid that head tax in the city. And we'll be able to fill our empty office space with all these different businesses. Happy to have them open up new restaurants for them to have breakfast and lunch at and really improve our economies out here. But then here's the thing. The second you step out of the city of Chicago and you step out of Cook County, believe it or not, you're in ruby red Illinois. As I mentioned before, 45% of Illinois is Republican. There's 102 counties in the state of Illinois. And about, I would say, I believe it's the last count, 87 of them are ruby red Republican. Ruby red Republican. And that's where you're seeing our congressional districts in Southern Illinois. So we have three congressmen, Mary Miller, Mike Boss, Darren LaHood. All three are America First Republican congressmen. None of them touch the city of Chicago, of course, but they're all kind of in the outside, kind of loop. And Illinois is not as Democratic as people say. And I think that if, just using numbers, if you look at Donald Trump, and in his race against Joe Biden in 2024, Donald Trump got more votes than J.B. Pritzker did during his last gubernatorial race. So there's a ton of Republicans here. We just have to find a way to activate them and make them more consistent voters. And when that happens, you're going to have, just so much reformation out here, right? We will be able to rebuild and reform Illinois. And I think we can hopefully attract more people coming back because we have more than enough space for them and start getting some of those congressional districts outside of other states and back into Illinois.
See, and I'm sorry, but like the architecture for the library is very confusing. Like, what is it supposed to look like? Is it supposed to look like a cocoon for the library, or?
Yeah, I mean, if you can edit this into it, I mean, I have no idea. It looks like a hobbit lives there. It really, right? Maybe it's in Middle Earth. That was the design that they wanted to go through. They tried to take everybody's thoughts and consideration from what I read in the newspaper. I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for them. I could just tell you that, in Chicago, we have one of the most beautiful city wide shots that you can get from Chicago, pretty much anywhere in Chicago. If you're on a clear day, if you're standing at Navy Pier, the number one visited a public attraction in Chicago, you can see New Buffalo, Michigan. You can see across into Indiana. Our city skyline is one of the most beautiful ones in the world. And I've been around the world to see it. And we have so much that Illinois can offer people. I mean, as soon as you get out of Cook County, you can start seeing agriculture. You can find manufacturing. We have that in Belvedere. We have auto facilities that are here. You have technology that is building into Chicago. You have a workforce. You have everything that you need to be the greatest state and the greatest country in the world. But we don't have the political intestinal fortitude to make the decisions to adhere to that. And I think it's a job of us as the Republicans and the minority party to shine a light on that waste, fraud, and corruption, and just try to bring it to people. That's why I like being on podcasts such as yours, because you get a real opportunity to tell people, like, just no nonsense directly. This is what's happening. This is what's going on. And when it's funny because they're like, I heard you say that. I didn't believe it. And then I Googled it and it's true. And I'm like, that's what I've been trying to tell you. Right.
Yeah.
It's just not fancy. And Chicago media doesn't pick it up, because they have these woke viewers, and then they can't sell commercials when they put stuff that is contrary to the woke mind. So they don't ever play it because it hurts their bottom line. But it is everything I'm telling you, the God honest truth.
So JB, Brandon, coming for you. We're gonna expose the light. We're gonna do everything we can to get y'all out of office. Count on it. Count on it. Well, man, just to go lightheart type of deal. Honest question for you, man. Would you like, you said you were a Cubs fan, you have a little bit of love for the Sox. Uh don't want to get you in trouble, but just
Sure.
wanted to know who's gonna make it to like the World Series.
Well, I can tell you something that you probably won't even know. Do you know what the most popular team this week in Chicago baseball is?
What's that?
The highest price ticket on both Wrigley Field and at Guaranteed Rate, or Comiskey as we call it, is the Savannah Bananas. They're playing at Comiskey Park, all right, or Guaranteed Rate, whatever you want to call it. Tickets are like in the bleachers and up in the upper deck are $140. You can buy White Sox tickets for $12, and you can't get the Savannah Bananas. Fully sold out, highest ticket price, even more than the Chicago Cubs at the friendly confines of the beautiful and historic Wrigley Field. But yeah, I was looking at tickets this weekend just to kind of see to take my kids to it, and it's just insane. But we look. The Cubs won it in 2016. You guys won it in 2005, 2008, something like that.
Believe so.
I was there. I was there when the Cubs won it. I was in Cleveland actually at Game 7. It was amazing. It was something that I'll never forget. But that's the thing about Chicago. If it's the Cubs, it's the White Sox, it's the Bears, it's the Bulls, if it's the Sky, whatever it is, we love our town. And that's why we're not leaving. And that's why we want to stay here and we want to fight. I don't know if you know this in your podcast, but I used to be an athlete, right? Had some success in high school, got a scholarship in college, wrestled at Indiana University, went into the judo program, won a couple All-American titles over there, made the world team. And then I got into some UFC fighting, which actually is in Chicago this Saturday at the United Center. I'm going to be there with my son. And I used to fight in a cage, right? Just like Joe Rogan, Donald Trump, all 11 that UFC, I did that. And people ask me, like, Aaron, how could you, as somebody that there's videos of you punching and kicking people in cages, how can you be in politics? How can you do podcasts? And I tell them, being in that fight makes me uniquely qualified to be a Republican in Illinois, because that's what it is about. We're just fighting. And we're doing that because we love our home and because I'm so thankful for my parents that gave me this opportunity to live an amazing life and learn. I want to fight to give that to my kids. I want to give that to other people's kids. And that's why we continue to do what we talk about. And we're not talking about names. We're not picking fights just to be partisan. We're talking about public policy and what is best for Illinois and how we can develop it. And I think when you see governments like with Florida, Texas, Tennessee, when you start looking at Nevada, when you look at some of these areas that apply conservative principles to their government, they succeed and then they grow. Texas is one of them. All these businesses are leaving and going to Austin. They're migrating over there, right? And what's happening? It's lifting all the ships. Same thing in Florida, right? Florida used to be a really blue area. I mean, Ron DeSantis, like him or don't like him, he won Dade County, which Miami's in. Can you imagine that, right? So I think that if people see the quality of life that Republican leadership and government brings to somewhere, and they can see the benefits it is for their family, they want to move there. And I think that's something that we're hoping to change here in Illinois and turn it from blue to purple and then finally to red and then bring all our people back.
Said it on my podcast several times. Hope is the key. Hope is the key, and we can't lose hope. And what President Trump said after he got up after getting shot in the ear, fight, fight, fight. We have to have that mentality. We just can't be just sitting around being like, oh, well, maybe next time or whatever.
Right.
No, we're on the attack. We need to just punch our way through and just get the midterms for us and 2028 for us as well. So
That's right. And I agree with you. You got to have hope. But here's one thing I always say: hope is not a strategy. We need to have dedication. We need to have sacrifice. We need to have a plan, and we need to execute at a very high level. And if we can do those things, you know what I mean, forcefully and deliberately, I think that it'll bear fruit for generations to come. And we can leave Illinois and Chicago in a better place than we received it, and move that ball forward.
of course, we're leading the way, man. We're leading the way. So I love that. Uh, Man, on another lighter note, gotta ask, you think the Bears are gonna make it to the playoffs or have any chance?
I think the Bears are just going to be making their way from downtown Chicago to Arlington Heights. But I think the Bears, you listen, man, Chicago Bears got a rich history of building teams and a strong defense. And I'm excited about the opportunity to watch them. I'm excited to cheer them on because those are our people.
Yeah.
When we're at a Bears game, it's not Republican, it's not Democrat. We're just all Bears fans. So it's kind of a safe space for us because we're all cheering for the same team, especially if it's against Green Bay. And I'm excited to have the Chicago Bears, you know what I mean, a mile and a half from my house. I'm just gonna, walk on over there and see what's happening. Maybe this will be the year that I buy the season tickets. We'll see. It's gonna take them 2 years to build the stadium, but it'll be a great opportunity. It's again, we're happy to take them on. We're happy to have all those people that come for the Bears games all over the state of Illinois and across the country to stay in our hotels, eat at our restaurants, to bring that tourism economic impact to our area, raise the value of my house through the roof, raise the tax base so my kids can get better education than they're originally getting, maybe my grandkids in one day. And I'm sorry for the city of Chicago that you're losing one of the biggest economic drivers you have, because it's not just the 6 or 7 home games that the Chicago Bears build every hotel and every restaurant down there. It's when Taylor Swift comes into town. It's when Flo Rida comes into town. It's when Bruce Springsteen comes into town. That venue that they're losing and the amount of economic impact that is going to be a boon to our economy here in the suburbs is going to be additionally crippling. And it's sad and probably rightful to see that the Chicago Bears are leaving under the worst mayor because he didn't do what he needed to do to keep them.
Of course. So I think there's going to be a big turnaround. I will say this though, I'm a Raiders fan, so when we play you guys, I'm just gonna be like, well, I gotta root for my team.
You know what though?
Obviously.
I mean, I went to Allegiant Stadium right before it was built. I got an inside tour. It is one of the most beautiful stadiums that I've ever seen. There is not a bad seat in the house. The food there is amazing. You don't really talk a lot about going to a NFL game and eating great food. It was outstanding. Service was great. I mean, it's centrally located in Vegas. I mean, Vegas has its challenges just like anywhere else, but they understand how to do tourism. They understand how to make people and provide entertainment and food and culture that people like. And if we can take a page out of Allegiant Stadium as we're building the new Soldier Field, I think that's going to be great for our people.
And on a last note here, man, personally, I've had honestly the worst deep dish pizza in my life. And I'm sorry, but I'm just telling it like it is. What is what is it to make a good deep dish pizza? Like,
All right. So deep dish pizza is not for the faint at heart, right? If you're coming to get a meal and you want to get a real big Chicago deep dish pizza, you got to go to one or two places, in my opinion, right? You got Pizzeria Uno, right? It was one of the first and oldest Chicago pizza places. They're amazing. Number 2 is Illuminati's, right? They're great. That's where we have one right down the street. The other thing that I like is Pequod's is really good. They're kind of a more like Detroit style, but it's still thick and pretty amazing if you think about it. And the last one, if you want where the insiders go, right? Chicago Pizza and Oven Grinders. It's in Lincoln Park. It's only got like 40 seats. You go in there, you get a salad and a pizza, and you're stuffed because the salad and everything's huge. They make their own dressing. None of these pizza places pay me to say this. This is just my own thing. I don't get any commission. I'm not their spokesperson. But Pizzeria Uno's, Illuminati's Pizza, Pequod's, and Chicago Pizza and Oven Grinder. If you get those 4 places, mwah.
well, and then secondly, too, to top that, hot dogs. Because I know
Oh.
you guys are very big with the hot dogs. And See, I come from the South. We love our hot dogs with either ketchup or mustard,
Oh,
but you guys
yeah.
do it a whole different thing.
Yeah, during the Depression, there was not a lot of money to go around. People were starving. I mean, that just is what
Mm.
it was. And to get a Chicago hot dog, just throwing some ketchup on it, right, didn't really fill you. So we created the Chicago style hot dog, which is basically like a meal in itself. And we don't ever put ketchup on there. If you go to a real Chicago hot dog spot and you ask for ketchup, they're telling you to leave, right? The real spots. And so on a Chicago hot dog, obviously the bun, right? It's got to be a poppy seed bun. It's not a sesame bun. It's a poppy seed bun. It's got an all beef American Frank on there as the hot dog. You have mustard. You have relish. You have onions. You have tomatoes. You have sport peppers. You have pickles. And then on top of the whole thing, you got to put the celery salt. That's what makes a true Chicago style hot dog. You don't need to eat 4 of them. 1, maybe 2. You're full. You're happy. You're loving life. You got that energy. You can go on your workday, and that's what would happen during the Depression. You grab the Chicago hot dog. It's got all that stuff loaded onto it. It would fill you to dinner. And that was you back then. You'd get it for like a penny and a half, 2 pennies or whatever. Got up to a nickel. Now you can get them for like $3. But it is a meal in itself, and you have to have it all together. And then again, sports peppers. If I mentioned that, gives it that extra pop. They're not going to be too spicy, but it's a lot of flavor and it fills you up.
Damn, man, you're already making me hungry, man. I didn't even eat any lunch, man. So,
Right.
no, bro, thank you so much for being on this podcast. And just to reiterate, I do have family in Chicago. Have not visited them at all. But if you guys are seeing this, the Rodriguez family in Chicago, I don't know which side, either north or south. I don't know for sure, but if you guys are seeing this, what's up? Representing you guys. But
You got it.
awesome,
And
brother.
when you come out here, Steve, we're gonna get you a couple slices of pizza. We're gonna let you try each one of them. We're gonna get you a Chicago style hot dog. We're gonna go and you're gonna get a beautiful view of the Chicago skyline. We'll take you to Navy Pier. We'll take you on top of the Sears Tower. We'll do all the tourist things that you need to do, and we're gonna show you what really makes Chicago, even with all the challenges that we have in public policy and the government and our public officials that really, hamper it. We are still heads and shoulders above everybody else in the United States.
Of course, man. Want to come down there? I'll let you know when I come down there, man. We'll make
Sounds great.
make a video for it. So awesome, brother. Thank you so
Thanks so
much.
much for having me. I look forward to meeting you, brother. And you have a good one. Thanks for all the viewers out there for spending your time and seeing what's going on here.
Awesome, brother. Thank you.